Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Crude Happens. Just wanted to say thanks for everyone who's watched so far, and to let you know that this particular interlude, we're going to have two people going at once. Um, these happen to be shorter than the first little mini-sodes we did with people, so I hope you enjoy as our silly boys get used to life on the road.
So, Svein.
Yes.
That was a delay. So it has been at least a week or so since you boarded upon the magical monster cart you all have taken to name Florence.
Florence.
Yeah. And I'm curious, throughout this week, what Svein has been up to.
Svein has been asking Ears for some information regarding something very sad that happened in his past that he wants to try and get resolved.
Okay. Is that like he kind of just did that every day, just hunting her down, asking for some info or some help?
Probably, because I'm sure that, even though we're all cruising with her, she still probably doesn't like us too much. So he probably had to badger her a few times.
All right, let's be fair. If she doesn't really like anyone right now, it's still probably Lannon.
Sweet. All right, well, at least Svein isn't at the bottom of the list.
Okay, then let's play out... we'll play out maybe like the first time you asked her, like the first time you went to go looking for her. So I imagine... So, do you remember what the layout of Florence is, by chance?
Not a whole lot.
So we have the main room you walk in. There's the hallway to the left. There's kind of the sitting room / kitchen area to the right. And if you were going to find books anywhere, it would probably be in that rightward area. So I assume, like, Svein was doing something. He's like, all right, I'm going to buckle down, get some research done. Heads
That's
off
right.
that way.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So it's the mid-afternoon when you walk into this sort of book nook that Ears has made out. There's a lot of really comfy chairs. Like, you've got an armchair sort of set off in the corner. There's a couch with a glass table. You've got a desk in case you just really wanted to hammer in that book study time. And as you said previous, you're sort of looking for something specific. I imagine Svein's kind of been exploring this whole place in search of said books.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And as a librarian, he's very good at, I guess, kind of picking through things, narrowing down his search to find what he's after.
Yeah, like sniffing the books out to start.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while of sort of looking around, you realize that this sort of book nook, as I called it previous, is it seems to be the only place where books are. So after searching like the last room, you are heading off this way. And as you enter into this multifaceted area, kind of living space, you actually do see Ears. She's got this, she's like on one of those foldable steps to a ladder things you see in libraries. And she's on the top shelf and she's sort of picking through books. And she too looks like she's looking for something. And maybe it's because of that she doesn't really notice that you walked in. Or maybe it's because you're like a legit rogue now and you're so gosh darn sneaky.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the scene.
All right. So Svein is going to try to say in a non-surprising, make her fall off the ladder way. Good afternoon, Ears.
That was such like a well-mannered like hello. I forgot how polite he was.
He's polite with his mouth and, stabbing people in the back with his
Gosh, yeah.
Mhm.
So she jumps a little bit, not enough to completely fall off the ladder, and she turns to you and she's like, "Oh, hi, Svein. What are you doing here?"
Well, you seem to be quite the connoisseur for books here.
Well, and she kind of looks to this bookshelf, not exactly as grand as the one that Smoldervan had, but it's a fairly decent sized collection. And she looks back at you and she says, I guess. Or what are you looking for exactly?"
Well, you see, I wanted to inquire about something. Do you have anything about magical curses, by any chance?
You're sort of. She thinks about that for a second and she turns back to the bookshelf, sort of like slides down the ladder a bit and hits the middle row. And you see her thumbing through a couple books. And she asks you, "Well, I got quite a few in here. Is it like something specific? Like, are we talking warlock curses or curses done by mad genies or crazy witches? Like, what?"
Oh, I see. No, this is something very specific. It's a petrification curse, and it happened because of an ancient relic that some people that I knew they misused it by mistake.
Oh, I got you. Didn't put the safety on or whatever. Okay, hold on a second.
Yes.
And she's kind of looking through again, but it seems like she's more focused on one particular section of the library this time. And as she is looking around, as casually as she can make it, she sort of asks you, "So, Svein, just curious. Hope you don't mind me poking around too, but did you were you like were you like adopted by wolves or something, or never lived with dwarves? Cause
No? See, I feel that there must be some sort of misunderstanding because your idea of dwarves is very different from my own. No, I was raised among dwarves.
Okay, but you have to understand something. My opinion on dwarves is not really an opinion. It's fact, but and she's scrolling through again. Now she sort of flips to a different section. And she pulls out this fairly hefty looking tome. It's like stone gray. There's some carvings and insignias on it. You recognize some of them as written in Dwarven. And she says, "Here, this is going to take a while to find. So how about you catch yourself up on your people there, Svein?" And she tosses it to you.
Well, I feel that I probably already know most of this, but I'll take a glance at it.
Given by your reaction, you're in for a hell of a treat, my friend. And she goes back to looking for the specific book that you inquired about.
Well, all right then. And Svein just has himself a seat by that desk or table.
Okay. And he stares at the book.
Yes. He's just taking in the cover.
Yes.
Right now. He really has to appreciate this book. No, he's gonna go and flip through there.
Okay.
Thinking that he probably already knows everything that's written in there. He feels pretty confident he knows all there is to know about dwarves.
Okay. So he kind of flips through the book a bit. You see, like, looking for a chapter in particular, like he saw it in the index, and he's like, "Okay, I guess I'll look at this first." Or just kind of randomly skimming through.
Maybe their history and culture.
Yeah, he's okay. So he's going
because
to that section.
He remembers that Ears mentioned something about him possibly being a germaphobe. Didn't really make sense to him, so he wants to see if he can figure out what that's all about.
Okay, so he flips kind of towards the middle of the book, where it says, the top of the cover says, again in Dwarvish, "The rise and fall of the mountain people." And the text, well, basically the text says that a long time ago, many, many centuries ago, the dwarves were known as, well, kind of the typical dwarves that you hear in fantasy all the time. They were these deep vein excavators. They were expert craftsmen and armor smiths, and they had all these like precious metals and jewels that they would trade with the more outside populace. And the part you kind of find weird, though, is that it says that dwarves didn't just live enclaved in these mountains and caves and all of that. Like, they were found in quite a few places around Gaia, really anywhere where there were mineral deposits of interest. Like, you had some that were in the Badlands, you had some that were out on the beaches, you had some that were even sprinkled in the forest, where more kind of magical, druidic-esque deposits could be found. And as you're sort of reading through this, something in particular catches your eye. And it's the words Smolderven Kingdom, Phoenix King, and the Plague.
Oh, now this is intriguing.
I assume he keeps reading after
Yes.
catching that. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he's going to investigate this further.
And all it is the same story you heard from Lannon when he was giving you the history of Smolderven's sort of ascension, how there was this plague and it was killing everyone off, and the Phoenix King created the ring of burning trees, the Ashen Grove. And then it says kind of, and then there's like there's more after that, though, and it doesn't follow what the humans did afterwards this time. It follows what the dwarves did. And the short and sweet of it was they boarded themselves up in the mountains way off to the north. The book talks about the same things that Ears was talking about, how they became fearful of this plague and what it could have done to them, and constantly now they're researching to try and figure out how to cure this epidemic or find a way to make them more resilient to diseases. And you're reading these these entries about dwarves, and how do you feel like hearing all of this, like reading about and learning who your people are?
It feels very strange because as Svein is thinking about this, this is not the history that he knows, because he remembers that his people, they lived in cities and towns with all sorts of other peoples, and a lot of them would be librarians or researchers who would also be researching this plague to try and get rid of it, but maybe not as fearful as these other people who shut themselves up. And in fact, he never really remembers hearing about these people, so it's a bit concerning to hear about this.
Okay. And sort of as you're mulling over this, Ears pops over the table and she has a couple books in hand. And she glances over at the page you're at and she says, "So I guess the whole germaphobe thing makes a little more sense now, huh, buddy?"
I suppose so. It's very, very, very odd, I must say, because I did not grow up in a mountain. Grew up in a village.
Yeah, I kind of guess that, Sherlock. And she puts the books down. And she says, "I mean, don't get me wrong. I appreciate the idea of you guys finally getting out and about, but..." And she kind of stops and she's looking at the book too, just sort of like eyeing over the passage. And she says to you, and she looks up at you and she says, "I mean, I've heard before of dwarves just sort of leaving or being exiled. I mean, I guess you were too young to remember any of that, huh?"
I suppose so. No, I don't remember any of this. For as long as I've known, my clan has lived where they lived. I never heard about any of these mountains, so... Well, I suppose if that's what happened, then that's what happened.
She nods and she says, "Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of makes our lives a little easier. We won't have to worry about running into them anytime out in the open here. And she goes to turn, and she stops, and she looks back at you, and she says, "But it's not a bad thing. I mean, everyone's free to choose their own deal, but I mean, in the end, the choice is yours, right?"
What do you mean? You mean to live in the mountain or to live out here?
Well, sort of. And she comes close again. She actually takes one of like a nearby chair, and she sits down next to you. And she says, "I always used to think that the dwarves up in the mountain, like, it's just a really stupid thing to do. Like, because the plague doesn't affect dwarves. It's only humans at this point. And I don't know. I always kind of used to make fun of them for that. And then I see you and a couple other dwarves who sort of made their own way out. And I guess," she kind of sighs of frustration. She's like, I don't know. It's weird how much a choice can impact your life,
Oh, I see. Yes. Well, I'm not quite sure what to think about those other dwarves. I suppose they're shut up in their mountain. Us
You're out
other
here.
dwarves are out here trying to solve this problem.
Problem doesn't really need to be solved anymore, though.
No, suppose we got rid of that.
And
But my students did get cursed because they were trying to get rid of this plague.
she kind of looks at you for a second, like she is taking in this sudden realization that, oh shit, you're a teacher? And actually out loud, she's like, wait, are you a teacher? Like, you
Oh, yes.
go and you instruct people younger than you to do stuff?
Of course, that is the way of the librarian, isn't
Okay.
it?
Well, okay, now hang on. Don't say it like I'm supposed to know this. We have to remember here, you are the minority in this situation.
All right, I suppose.
She kind of laughs and she says, you'd be a totally different person if you didn't live out here. I don't even think we would have met.
No, I don't suppose so. Unless you go to the mountain very often.
She nods and she adds after that, though I suppose if you never left, maybe your students would have been. And then
Yes. Well, let's not focus on that right now.
So I was going to do something, but if you want any help with this? And she looks like really uncertain, like she doesn't quite know why she's asking or offering her help to you. And in like another instant, she's off the table shaking her, or not off the table. She's off her chair, shaking her head. She's like, no, never mind. It's fine. I'll go do my thing.
Yes, I would appreciate your help.
Really?
Yes, you seem to know far more about this world than I do, and you know a fair bit about magic and things like that, so perhaps you could help me find what I'm looking for here.
I guess. Look, no offense, but I honestly thought you guys sort of saw me as annoying, I guess is the best word. I mean, I know it's been a couple days and all, but I think you're the first person who actually approached me like this.
Well, I suppose that's what makes us dwarves different.
No.
Or perhaps not.
Not at all.
From reading this book, I don't know.
She takes a seat next to you and she kind of puts her hand on your... Oh, God. I guess she can't reach your shoulder, can she? Okay, well, she kind of goes...
sitting down in a chair.
Well, he may be sitting down, but so is she.
The Short People Club.
The Short People Club. So I guess she kind of realizes that and just sort of awkwardly puts her hand on your bicep. And she says, it's definitely not what makes dwarves different, but it's what makes you different. So that has to count for something.
Right. I'm sure that it does.
So, Kennum,
Hello.
you and your little band of misfits have been on inside this cart, this magical cart that you have taken to calling Florence for about a week now. Smolderven is very much in your rear window, and I'm curious to know what Kennam has been up to.
Well, for starters, I think Kennum's gonna go visit his orphanage since we've got he did have a lot of human children.
Yeah, a lot. Like, can we just get a total death count over here? I got some notes written down. According to you, 60 out of 100 of your orphans died because of this little.
yeah, just about.
Okay. No, I'm totally cool with this. So I imagine like Iris is trying to haul ass sort of out of the region, and you go up and sort of tell her, no, hold on a second, I got something to do. She's not entirely thrilled that we have to stop again, but she does pull Florence to stop just before going into the Ashen Grove, and she lets you out and reminds you that we're sort of on a time crunch here and we need to get out of Smolderven before everything gets worse.
All right. So we're at the orphanage at this point, right?
Yes, and I think actually this is a great time to sort of tell the world, what the hell does your orphanage even look like? Because we kind of missed an opportunity when we first came into the Ashen Grove, but now there's no getting around it. What is this orphanage of yours?
So essentially the general aesthetic of it is it was initially a church in which I have like cobbled together different chunks of burned down buildings on top of like on the sides and top of it to make it one big building.
Okay.
But the central part and front door was initially a church.
So basically you've made like a Frankenstein orphanage here.
Yeah.
Nice.
You think
Okay.
I can afford to make a new house?
I don't know, what does orphan keeper pay nowadays?
Not enough.
Not enough, apparently. Okay. So you come up to the orphanage. Nobody is outside. It is a very empty looking front yard you walk up to. And you do see sort of scattered farther away from the property, there are some very small, very human looking bodies. And yeah, that's sort of the somewhat upsetting scene that you arrive upon.
And how long from this plague we unleashed has it been? Like days, week? Has it been a full week? Or?
Well, no, if it was a week, that would be Iris would have to double back, and she would not have done that.
Okay, so we are literally talking like a few days max.
I mean, I was saying, not really even that. Like, you released the plague, it kind of got to the edge of the forest and fizzled out, and this is probably only a couple hours or so after you officially left the kingdom itself. Again, otherwise, Iris would have been like, no, fuck you, I'm not turning around. We're gonna keep going.
Okay, then.
So that's that. Literally, probably what the chain of events was, you guys went upstairs, you had the talk with Iris and like which direction you were going to go, and then afterwards you could have like pulled her aside and been like, now wait, before we totally vacate the area, I got a request.
All right. So Kennum's going to head inside the orphanage and look for the kids. And wherever they are, he's essentially going to tell them to pack their things. We're going to move towards the castle.
Okay. Now, as you sort of enter into your hobcobble church here, there are like, nobody comes out at first. If anything, you actually hear a couple of doors slam shut and lock because stranger danger and all that. But after a little bit, sort of like as you're like, what are you doing to kind of reassure him? Like, no, I'm not a thief. It's cool. Come on out, kids.
I mean, I'm probably gonna shout to them.
Okay. So you kind of call out that it's you, like you're back. And you do have a couple of the braver, older-looking kids who come out, and it's kind of a maelstrom of tears and somewhat incoherent gibbering from younger kids. Even some of like the older kids seem really shook up about what happened. Some of them even ask you like what happened? Like everyone just dropped dead. Like they have no idea what's going on. They literally think the apocalypse is upon themselves.
Kennum's gonna try and like do his best to reassure them that everything's gonna be fine now. But I can't like. I've got to go do something, and Eloise is going to be stuck at the castle for a while, so everyone's going to have to move over there for a bit.
Okay. Why don't you roll me a persuasion, sort of just to calm this mob of children down? You can roll with advantage because they know you, but I do want to know, like, what is this sort of reassuring speech you give them as you make this roll?
All right, the first one's a 16, and the second one's a 24.
Oh, hell yeah! With that 24, I got to hear what you'd say to calm these children down.
Let me think. Well, so Kennum's first of all just gonna like pat as many of them around him on the head as he can and go, the Gash and Grove is no longer safe, kids. We've got to move farther in, but I assure you, the castle is going to be your home for a while.
Again, like a lot of the younger kids look really excited about this, but there's a couple older ones who sort of give you a sidelong look, and one of them who, like, typically people tend to tower over you, Kennam, but this particular child almost hits the roof itself. Mostly because your makeup of kids, as you have explained to me, the remainder are 20 wood elves, 4 halflings, 3 dragonborn, 3 Goliaths, and 10 orcs. So it's one of the Goliaths who are kind of looking at you. And they ask you, but sir, what happened? Like, all of the other kids, like Joseph and Christine, and you kind of see him start to break down a little bit.
I'm gonna give him a hug and go, the sickness has swept through again, and I'm sorry there's nothing we could do. Right now, we have to move on, and that includes moving on from this place.
Okay. So sort of as you're, this actually must be like pure chaos because you're literally helping 40 plus kids try and pack up what they have and organize them outside. Holy shit.
Oh, could I actually bring a helper to like help with all of this madness?
Depends. Who are you thinking?
I want to bring Winslow.
Okay. So Winslow's currently sort of on house cart Florence arrest. Like
he can stay within sight. I'm not gonna like make him go into the house, but just keep the kids around.
Okay,
you know, little community service and all that.
So you kind of are watching this mess of children trying to get organized and realize you need help. So you just go back in and do you just try and get him without anyone knowing, or like do you go talk to Ears first, or like what do you do?
No, I do not have the mental capacity to talk to Ears right now. Screw that. I'm just gonna go straight to Winslow. Throw like a bread roll at him or something. He's like, "Here's your lunch. Let's go."
Okay, I need you then to roll me stealth because I guarantee you, if Ears does catch you, she is not going to be super thrilled that you're going to try and let this guy who literally trashed this kingdom go out and help organize the orphans. Like it's not a thing. So you roll me. Oh, excuse me.
11.
Wow, that's okay. Well, I will contest you with Ears' perception.
It's probably much higher than an 11.
Well, she got a 12, so not by much. Okay, so she currently is in the sort of sitting area. She was looking for some books. She's got like a stack of books, and she sees you sort of tiptoe in, and she calls out, "Oh, are you? I mean, did you take care of what you needed to take care of, Kennum? I mean, I don't mean to sort of rush this, but sooner we can find the saplings, the better."
It's going to take a bit longer than I thought. I thought I'd swing in and get some help.
She gives you an eye, and she's like, "Okay, well, I think Lobe is around here somewhere. Lannon said something about training." And then she kind of sees like what direction you're going, and immediately all the books drop out of her hand, and she's like, "Absolutely not."
Listen, he's clearly not a threat to anyone anymore. Let him try and work his way back into functionality?
No, it's more like working his way back into my good graces, Mr. Okay, seriously, do you not remember like why we have to leave in the first place? Like what that idiot did to sort of kickstart all of this? And she's like trying to find the words, but she seems to be struggling a bit, as if what you are suggesting is the craziest thing in the world, and she can't even believe you are saying this. And eventually she sort of just like takes a calming breath, and she folds her hands together, and she says, "Okay, look, I give you that in his current state, he's not too much of a threat. However, he wasn't that much of a threat when this started off in the first place."
At this point, Kennam's actually gonna get like really angry, I think is the word. He's gonna stare Ears down. Well, I guess stare Ears up because she's slightly taller, but
The slightest bit tall, yes.
like with a rather angry grin on his face. Not grin, with a rather angry, like stone cold stare, and go, We've all done things when we were mourning our dead. Let him fix it." And with that, I'm sure I'll roll intimidation.
Yeah, it could be. You could also try me for persuasion again, if you so desire.
No, this is straight up intimidation.
Yeah, okay, go for it then.
Quick question though. Those magic clothes I picked up, they increased my persuasion, but do they increase intimidation as well?
No.
Okay.
Only one.
Well,
Oh,
it's still
shit!
a 21.
Holy moly. Okay. Ear sort of flinches as you make this declaration. And she finally just kind of throws her hands up and she says, "I swear to God, Kennam." Like, and she gets kind of close to you and she's like, "I swear to every god that exists in this universe, if he gets out of sight, if we lose him, there is no telling what he will do. Because he can't go home, and his original plan failed. And you have to understand that somebody who has lost that much in a short time span, I hope you know what you're doing."
It's just gonna take a look and go, it wouldn't be the first time.
Okay, so
And
you...
Gonna go get Winslow.
Yeah, so now you're gonna go get Winslow. Okay. So you, Winslow, as of this point, was put at the farthest room down the hallway. You could tell Eris has put some extra locks and safety precautions just to make sure he doesn't get out, but you don't really have a problem sort of unlatching and unlocking, dispelling whatever is around there. And you open the door, and it's a fairly empty room. There's a bed off to the side. He's got a sort of desk table with a chair pushed in. There's like this small little bookshelf with a few array of books. And then a bunch of other like random pieces of furniture and knickknacks. And you can kind of start to piece together that this was probably some sort of storage closet. And now it's a makeshift prison. And at this point, Winslow is awake. He's reading a book, and he looks up at you, and he says,
Down. He looks down at me.
That's true. That's very... Well, he's kind of like lounged out on his bed, so he's sort of looking across from you.
Okay.
And he does look super... He looks interested. He even like puts the book down, and he says, huh. You know, I kind of thought I just sort of die back here out of sheer boredom, but I'm glad you people remembered I'm still here. Still super kidnapped. Thanks for that.
Get up, Winslow. It's time to start helping the world instead of hurting it.
He sort of rolls his eyes at that sentiment. And he says, what, did yours put you up to this or something? Like,
ha! He's just gonna motion for Winslow to come out the door.
Well, I'd usually say no, but given the circumstances I'm now in, I literally have no idea what you guys are gonna try. So, sure, why not? How could this day possibly get any worse? And he gets up, and so what do you want him to do exactly?
For the most part, I just want to I want to have him like help load up the carts, like put luggage onto the carts. You know, it's within sight range. There's only so much you can do to the luggage. He can still see what's going on. You know, get an idea for what happened.
Okay. Now this is an interesting circumstance because I have a feeling, on the one hand, Kennum did sort of want some help, but on the other hand, this is sort of a how do I want to put it? Not a guilt trip per se, but just sort of like a look, see, you can do good, and your consequences or your actions have consequences sort of deal. Yeah?
Yeah, that is completely what he is doing.
Okay, so yes, actually kind of like a guilt trip. Excellent. So, let's see. Why don't then you roll me... Do me another persuasion. This is a little unorthodox, but I am kind of curious to see how he sort of reacts to all of this. Oh my god.
Crit 1.
Oh my god. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, so you put him in charge of... let's say you just kind of put him at the cart and the older kids sort of pass him luggage and he'll stack it accordingly.
Speaking of which, I would like it very much mentioned if he goes for the reins with the cart, I'm totally blowing him with a scorching... No, I don't have a scorching ray, my bad. With a firebolt.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I think he's well aware that you would do that. Plus, running to the reins would take significant effort, and he sees sort of all of these monstrosities you keep in your orphanage. Like, holy hell, it's like a crazy zoo here. But he's... so is Kennam sort of watching him, kind of gauging his response to all this?
Trying to, anyway.
Yeah, clearly. So you, Kennam, are watching as Winslow helps these kids load up their luggage. And you sort of see... Almost disappointingly, his expression doesn't change too much. He just looks bored and sort of disconnected and definitely does not want to be there at all. And yeah, your little guilt trip doesn't seem to be doing much. He does not seem super unfazed. But when Mina Lee gets there with her sort of collection of carts, she enlisted a couple people to help out because she knew there would probably to be quite a few orphans to take in. And as she is doing this, she kind of sends Winslow away. Like, you Kennum probably told her sort of like what the deal was, and like, yeah, no, don't let him near any carts, it'll be bad.
Yeah.
And so he's kind of back at you, his arms are crossed. Again, he's just not even there, like no guilt, no sympathy. He's just a blank slate. Like, you cannot read this man. But as the last couple of kids are being loaded up, you see his expression shift just the tiniest bit. And it shifts into almost regret. And you sort of look over and try and see what caused such a shift. And as you look at the cart, you look at the person who is kind of loading up the last child, like this small orc, kind of putting him in the passenger seat, and the driver's sort of smiling and trying to make light of the situation, and you realize that it's Hubert. And the two brothers sort of make eye contact very briefly, like Winslow looks at Hubert and Hubert's looking at him, and it's just for a split second, and then you see Hubert look away, and Winslow, like in a very soft voice, he says, "Am I done here?"
He's doing all right, you know. This entire debacle you caused, we'll get through it. And there is one more thing we need to do. And with that, he's going to take Hubert over to the now empty orphanage.
Wait, Hubert or Winslow?
Winslow. God.
Okay.
Winslow.
I
He's
know
going to
they
take
look
Winslow
alike.
over to the now empty orphanage. And at this point, we have put the small human children in the orphanage in like a burial thing.
Okay.
And he's going to he's going to cast Firebolt on one of the torches so he can light it up, and he's going to hand it over to Hubert.
Nope, you mean Winslow again.
Okay, Winslow. Okay, Nick, edit that last part out. Me chanting Winslow's name.
Are you sure? It's like invoking Satan.
But he's going to hand the torch over to Winslow and say, "This was my way of honoring someone a long time ago. I'm not horribly different from your situation. Burning down towns and all that, it wouldn't be the first time I've seen it either. And Winslow, there are two ways you can let this happen. You can either wallow in the death of your friends and family, or any like motions to the to the structure he's created and says, or you can honor them. Take what was at their heart and carry it with you. I can't make that decision, but I hope I can at least show you there is two paths to this." And with that, he's handing the torch over to Winslow.
Okay. Roll me one more persuasion, but this time do it with advantage.
24, 20.
So you give Winslow this torch, essentially sort of giving him the right to burn down your legacy, in a sense. Like, you spent almost 50 years trying to build this place up and make it a home for these kids who don't have a place to call home or a place to really call their own. And again, he's putting sort of on this front, this like stone cold, blank slated look, and he casually tosses this torch at the structure, and you watch sort of more and more embers pick up, and as it starts to turn into more of a blaze, he, like, at this point, he hasn't said much, and you haven't said much, and you're just watching this blaze together. But very, very subtly, you sort of look out of the corner of your eye with your periffs, and you see him crying.